Sebastian, as we start live streaming, how you showing up today? Sebastian, Mr. Paban.
Getting his mic
Sorry,
on.
man.
There he
Hey,
is.
Yes.
man.
Hey, how are you, my friends? We show that never ends. How are you? Oh, good.
Good.
For my
You
side.
feeling good? Right, good.
Oh, really nice.
Um, so hey, everybody, it is the 1st of August. We're, what's that, 7/12 of the way through the year? That one doesn't reduce. That's good. So we're here. This is Gimbalabs Live Open Spaces. It's Thursday. We do this at 14:30 UTC on Thursdays. There's a registration link for this session at gimbalabs.com/calendar. And the way we've been starting to use these sessions over the last few weeks is to start from a list of projects. This is publicly available. I dropped the link in the chat. And you can see that we go through these stages of proposing projects into planning, into reviewing and consenting as a group. That's really what the space on Thursdays is for. So that's what we're going to practice today. And then once proposals are consented to, now they're happening. Now they're in progress. So we have a record of that down here. So this is really a place that we can start in these sessions every Thursday, looking at current proposals and asking who's got one to bring to the table. If we ever need to start by looking at Miro or any other resource, we could talk about that. I just wanted to see what it would feel like to start right here and to hand it off right off, right. This was the bottom of our agenda last week was Newman had a proposal and then I had one. And we practiced by going through Harsha modeled a process here where we dived into some of the details. And that gave us like a frame to be able to fill out some of this stuff right here. But once we practice this process together, there's no rule that it has to take any amount of time to go through a proposal forming and then consent process. These are things that might take a long time if we need it, because there's lots of details to discuss. But there are also things that can happen in some cases in just a few minutes. You've got a proposal, you show it to everybody, everybody says, yeah, let's do it. And now you've got a project in progress. So that's where we're headed. But Newman, if I hand it off to you right now to talk about the fund proposal presentations, does that feel okay?
Yeah, that feels good. Um, I I think we could because basically my plan is to read the proposal, what I've written, and then as I'm reading, ask for people to not interrupt the reading, but to write down notes. And that writing down of notes or questions or concerns, objections, clarifying, generative questions, those that can happen, um, in several places. It can happen here in the Zoom in the chat, or it can happen there in if you open up the proposal, there's a comment section, so you can comment on each one of the little areas. I think if you go to the one where you're signed in, yeah, you can add comments. So comments there are good and durable. And I think maybe the best way to do it if you have access. Um, and then I also created a thing in the Miro board for commenting, and sort of posted a template, a Miro board template in there. There is also a proposal template that I copied. That's how I created this.
Is the
This
Miro, do you have that Miro link?
I,
I can
I
set up on the
it's not
screen.
actually in the
But I can grab it.
yeah, that's that can happen. Uh,
And this is another place we everything is a work in progress, as it says right here. What do you think? Should the presenter be responsible for sharing their screen, or is it really helpful if I have it shared right here and you tell me where to scroll around?
it actually might sort of offload some cognitive load there. My
Okay.
the idea here, so that everybody gets on the same page, is that, and this is some context which may or may not be in this proposal, but some context was that in meetings before, we were like, "Ooh, this would be a good proposal." And a typical way that would happen is that it never gets really concrete. And so we were like, "Oh, that might be a good proposal to start." This Thursday proposal reading, proposal refining. And we can make a decision to do the formal S3 proposal formation, and I did some research into that. It is one of the patterns in the pattern map. But in essence, it's just a way to capitalize on an opportunity or avoid a pitfall. And I think we get into that in the reading. So let me get into the reading. And has everybody gotten to a spot where they can comment either in the Notion or in the Zoom chat? Yeah, I get a thumbs up from Nelson.
I dropped the Miro link in there too, and I'll be watching that. And if anybody doesn't have commenting rights on Notion, those of us who do can make sure just to drop those in as we see them.
All right, and I will read it out. And this is one of those things where ideally we would ask people to read this beforehand, and that's something as I immediately thought about. It's like, oh right, these are kind of things. So you can always look on this Miro, on this Notion, and see. Okay, here we go.
Full list.
So I think it's important to start off with the Gimbalabs primary driver to remind us, and that is to provide open, replicable, safe spaces to learn, to explore, and to empower individuals and organizations anywhere so that we can solve meaningful problems. So this proposal driver, or the why of this proposal, to empower individuals to solve meaningful problems by using the Gimbalabs proposal format. The proposal has 12 different sections, and so I'll read them through now. The title, which has changed around a bit, funding proposals for open spaces, or fund proposal presentations. And then here's the brief description. In order to bring more proposals and provide an incentive to contribute to Gimbalabs, our Treasury will distribute a certain amount of ADA to individuals that prepare and present proposals to the open spaces. And here's the background. Gimbalabs is moving to a new format for the open space on Thursday. Written proposals are encouraged. The group will discuss those written proposals in a structured proposal formation process. Here's some other sort of points. The Sustain and Maintain Fund 12 proposal, a funded proposal that just got funded, has a budgeted treasury of 30,000 ADA. A simple way to increase contribution to Gimbalabs is needed. That's a premise. The time to meaningful contribution for new members is a metric or is something to measure. These proposals would be a meaningful and lasting or durable or shareable contribution. A simple way to express interest in a topic, a proposal in community, and a way to highlight a problem or propose a solution that is related to Gimbalabs' primary driver and relevant to the Gimbalabs community. Okay. The intended outcome. And I know that we could stop and talk about each one of these, but just reminding us of the idea. I'm going to read through all of these sections, and you can comment if you have comments, and I'm encouraging you to have comments and write down your ideas as I go through, so that we can go back and discuss them. Number 3, the intended outcomes. Evidence of work and initiatives that is durable and structures Gimbalabs. Written proposals take time. Incentivizing the effort to prepare good proposals will improve the quality and respect the author's or the presenter's time and commitment. It's an easy way to contribute to Gimbal Labs in a more meaningful way. Collect ideas from the community in a robust and durable way, such that reporting of the effectiveness of the funds, that's the sustain and maintain funds, to Catalyst is easy. Practicing writing ideas in the proposal format, and practice the sociocracy governance methods of proposal formation. So here we get into some of the details. Set aside a certain percentage of the 30,000 ADA in the Treasury to incentivize the creation of proposals. Proposals are presented at the open space and follow a set process. The presenter is compensated a certain amount for drafting the proposal and presenting and going through the process. Perhaps. Okay, so these are ideas that we can discuss. These are sort of the parameters, like the dials that we can set. There is a target for the number of proposals, and the sustain and maintain proposal is for 5 months. Perhaps there is a maximum budget for these proposal incentives, which is kind of but then there might be like for the total proposals in themselves. That's a different thing. The percentage set aside, just to give you an idea, 5% would be 1,500 ADA, 10% would be 3,000 ADA. The amount to compensate the proposals, for instance, could be 100 ADA, which would give us between 15 and 30 proposals incentivized, or 13 and 15 people or times that people give presentations. Okay. So here are some questions about these details that I came up with. What is the payment scheme? How much should we budget for all of the proposals, like proposal budget? You make a proposal and you say it needs this much budget. What about an element of randomness or lottery? And we can talk more about that. And what about poor quality proposals or rewarding quality? Impact and benefits. This idea of opportunities and pitfalls. So there's opportunities that are going for, and the opportunity is that we've got this treasury, and the pitfall is that we spend it poorly, or it doesn't sustain or maintain Gimbal Labs. So the impact and benefits can be broken down into opportunities and pitfalls. And then here's some evaluation criteria. Did people make proposals? Did they use the format? Did they present the proposal? Did they provide a wallet address? Were the funds transferred? And you can kind of see that this is a checklist of all the things that might happen. And then here's some qualitative. How did the group feel about the activity and the proposals? And then how did the proposer feel about the activity and proposals? The timeline, ongoing Thursday open spaces, payments made weekly, and then actually this is from S3, a review date when proposals might be reviewed, and I would suggest maybe at the halfway mark of the 5-month period. Review date, and then actually the duration that maybe thinks of. So there's like a 5 months duration. And then the review is basically to like say, hey, is it working? And to go through that evaluation. And then the resources required. So someone to facilitate and admin this payment structure to this could tie into the people that are, but someone to facilitate an amount of ADA, this decision, 5%, 10%, just a few ADA, maybe it's 100 per ADA, per presentation, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 10. Responsibilities, someone to explain the process and activity to potential proposers, collect the names, payment info, documents, organize them into community, ensure the requirements are met, and then make the payments. And this is a great section, and sort of the last section that I've got here. The potential risks and mitigation strategies. So, and I've just focused here on the risks. and we can talk about mitigation. Low quality proposals. So that, okay, not enough proposals. The admin of the proposals and payments is a chore, and there are problems. People won't come to the open spaces, and people who come won't know the process. Okay, so that is the proposal. Let's set a timer for a few minutes, and we'll go through a sort of clarifying question round, or if you have like ideas about like, do you understand what this is? And I understand that it may or may not be clear. Okay, any comments? Okay, Alex.
I have
And
a
Harsha.
question about.
Oh God, I can't hear him. Is my mic messed up?
Oh, Alex, your voice is really low.
Oh, just a sec. How about now?
We got you,
Much
guy.
better. Yeah, thanks.
Uh, I would change wording from quality of proposals to proposal alignment to Gimbalabs mission.
That's perfect. Yes, that's great. And that would be down there
Where
in
was
the clarifying or the risks, or
There's
in which
quality here. Yeah, quality is mentioned here. But we can.
yeah, lack of alignment with Gimbalabs primary driver.
Okay. But was there something about quality somewhere else? Oh yeah.
Yeah, and those are yeah. What about misalignment? Yeah. Or lack of relevance. And and perhaps there's like a rubric that would really help with people coming up with ideas, because the overarching idea is to get you, wider Cardano community, to sort of give us like good ideas, and we've got this funding to sustain and maintain Gimbalabs. So what are proposals for that? And so and I guess the basic idea of this is, let's, instead of the volunteering, just a small little stipend, just a little thing to say, hey, you can spend hours on this and not feel like you can get out of your normal volunteer for Gimbalabs. Because I do, and this is a premise, I like the open source volunteerness of Gimbalabs, but realize that making a proposal sort of steps out of that volunteer land and requires a little bit more. And so, a small stipend might be good. Harsha.
Uh, in terms of like the reward received for putting forward a proposal, by the end of the day, we have to see if the reward is pushing the community to put forward more proposals or not, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we have to take into consideration two periods. One is without the reward and one is with the reward. That would give us clarity on whether the reward really pushes people to put forward more proposals or not, I think.
Yeah, like an A/B test. It's just like, okay, let's just ask the community, and we could start with an a non-incentivized sort of proposal period, and say, hey, look, Gimbal, we make like a publicity push, like Gimbalabs is looking for proposals, and like that is a good point. In order to determine effectiveness, we have to sort of establish a baseline. And so what is the baseline? Is that what you're?
Correct. Yes. I think, exactly like you said, A/B test.
Yeah. what is the baseline for like our proposals? And I guess just taking a moment here, because one way to frame a proposal is like, what is and what is your desired state? And then what is the intervention between those two? And so quickly, what is that, and I think that this is, like in a community, you get around and we discuss and we have our activities and meetings. We say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if? And then a couple of people start up and it doesn't get documented and it's not formal so much. Generally, when money gets involved, then there's some tightness and it becomes less, it can be, formal to a certain extent. For instance, it'll be formal for our reporting. But then, and we get, and then people at the end are like, hey, I thought I was getting this. And it's like, oh no, we didn't get this. Or there was a meeting where we decided, and, and this is a real issue, I think, with sort of open source projects or community-based projects. So this is a way in my ideal state is that I've mentioned this durable contribution, so that you really show it's just like, oh, this is evidence, and it starts this sort of documentation and openness, transparency, type of things. Okay. Yeah, and then this helps us start that because there is a little bit of a monetary reward for writing it down. And I've used this quote a lot: the difference between science and just messing around is writing things down. The difference between science and messing around. And so I want to move Gimbalabs into the science category. And Sebastian, I'll wait for our note taker to keep up contributor platform data. Okay. Sebastian, I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks. I'm wondering if we could conceive different alternatives to compensating proposals presentation. Different alternatives, for example, enhancing the documentation about how to present proposals and promoting the process of presenting proposals instead of compensate the presentation of these proposals. In my mind, I think the conception of ideas starts from the very beginning of when you catch an idea that flows you in your system internally. And if the idea is sufficiently good, you assume some investments in terms of time and the effort of assume some processes and bureaucracy and all this stuff on behalf of that idea. I think, for example, yesterday you guys were discussing about in the live coding session. Okay, maybe we need some kind of video podcasting, or these guys that make videos in a really good style. Maybe we should. You are discussing about making tutorials for the courses, right?
Yeah.
And you were presenting this scenario where a guy or a girl assume the challenge of, okay, I can do this tutorial in this way, in this graphical and this exciting way. And it's this kind of idea can be driving, can get some kind of good framework to start growing convert it in a really exciting idea just from the beginning. I'm not completely opposed to compensate the proposal's presentation, but I think maybe that could be against the conception of the ideas itself
Yeah.
through the process. And at the same time, if you compensate the presenters, you should compensate the people that study the idea, discuss the idea, and take time to study the idea in this open session. So we are open the gates to I have to compensate everybody that takes part in the process.
That's a good feedback. That's really good feedback.
Other scenario is, we need to facilitate the process of presenting proposals. We need to promote in the Cardano ecosystem and outside the Cardano ecosystem this new this new scenario that Gimbalabs is opening a space where people can present a proposal and get funding. Because the eternal problem is, I have this idea of making a tutorial for this PPBL, but I can do it for free. You don't have to do it for free. We have a treasury and we can support you, but your idea should be sufficiently good to get those funds. So I'm open to I'm open to options. I'm not saying in this moment, we shouldn't to compensate proposal, because I know the feeling, working on ideas for months, for weeks, and not get anything, and lost all the effort and the time. But in that process, I've learned that the ideas start from the beginning, before you present the proposal. Before you plan to present the proposal. So just to end, to finish with this idea, I think maybe my question is, maybe we could contemplate alternative options instead of compensate. That's just my reflection. Thanks a lot.
And just to and Simon and Harsha, I see your hands are up. Do you have follow-on things here with what Sebastian was talking about I just want to put a point on, like, I think that we confirmed the driver that we want ideas happening and proposals happening in Gimbalabs, that we want, like, to find these hard problems to solve, and that we really need to activate our community. And then what Sebastian is bringing up is like, hey, there are some pitfalls, some real pitfalls that we need to think through if we want to fund them. He's bringing up a concern and an objection that says, hey, look, there may be problems, and I think, like, looking into that, sort of like, well, if you fund one, then, like, funding the whole group, like, where is really all that value? So thank you very much for that. Simon, and then Harsha.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, just with the caveat, well, following up with what Sebastian said, with the caveat of, like, I don't expect to be paid because I'm, like, in this one session, contributing maybe, like, this really nice line or something. I think usually when you contribute to the proposal, you're kind of part of the proposal, right? You want to you kind of make it your own, and you want to add even after it's funded, if possible.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. And there is that idea of source. Are you familiar with that one? The working with source, it's one of the foundational sort of materials here at Gimbalabs. And it basically, it means that there is generally an originator of an idea, or that person that takes the risk of writing it down and doing the legwork to like get it over the hump of, now it's a, yeah, I'm holding up air quotes, like an official Gimbalabs proposal, that they go through the process and they do the thinking. But those people, like you're saying, it's not just, paid to present the proposal and that's it. It's generally people present the proposal and then it's some way they're connected with it as it either stops there or continues on. Is that sort of your
Yeah,
your thought?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Harsha, let's.
So I was just thinking about people that are coming in. Say, for example, Simon is here. I don't know if it's the first time or not, and they want to present a proposal. So before that, do you think they need some background knowledge of what Gimbalabs is and what qualifies to like put a proposal forward and things like that?
Yeah, and that's sort of that, like a sort of a risk is that like that people don't know the process, and there could be like a qualifying thing, like to get any kind of reward from Gimbalabs, like an onboarding process would need to happen just in a very real way, meaning that we have to know who they are and they have to get like on the Notion, or they have to have a wallet address. But we could put other qualifiers, and it's interesting because it does start to like expand in complexity. But yeah, like, but it could be, I guess yeah. The like the background knowledge in order to give like good contribution. And then this is another one of these things about, because we want people to come, we want people to contribute, and we want them to sort of build and edify Gimbalabs, such that Gimbalabs can be maintained and sustained. That's the reason for these funds. Um, and I think you're giving us a good, like, how, for newcomers or people just contributing, like, do they need to qualify? Do they need certain kind of knowledge? Yeah.
Is
Does
my
that sum
screen
up?
share? Can you guys see my screen?
Not anymore.
Black.
No.
It just went away. Yeah, hold on. I don't know what broke. Give me 1 second.
But I think I really like the, the kind of, the agree, and this is part of the proposal formation in the S3 is agreeing to the driver. And this is, it's interesting because it doesn't, it's an assumption, but I would like, and it might be good to get some thought on this. Well, there's actually two parts to this. I really want to put our proposals up front. So we've got 3 funded proposals from Catalyst. And I would love to like be very transparent and really be, as a community member, and this may not go for everyone, but as a community member, I really want to see like those milestones and the activities that the oh, I see Simon's taken off. All right, I think he's out.
Oh, Simon, see you soon.
But I would love to like be very connected to those proposals. In a
When you say be connected, like everybody, or is that a personal goal?
I mean, it's one of those things that it's a personal goal, but I'm wondering if like all community members want to be.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
so yeah, community is connected to proposals. I agree with that sentiment. And so now it's just a question maybe of like, what do we mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you know that feeling when there's a small enough amount of work happening that you feel like you can kind of hold it in your head?
Hmm.
And then beyond a point which you're like, oh, Catalyst, I can't possibly know every proposal that's happening.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Um, what can we do to be closer to that feeling of holding a whole picture in your head, among all of us? Like, not to know all the details of every proposal that everybody is bringing and that everybody's working on, but having like a high level view that where you can say, yeah, I have a good grasp of what's happening around here, where I can go to know why it's happening and how I can get involved.
Yeah.
Am I summing up what your hope would be for the
Yeah.
community?
And I can make this very concrete because I've volunteered quite a bit. I volunteer here and like online communities and through Project Catalyst. Um, but I also volunteer in the physical world on Saturdays. We take, a 45-minute subway over to Brooklyn and we go to a food pantry. And it's run by this group called Camp Friendship. And it's just, my girlfriend was just like, oh yeah, I volunteer over at this place. And just like on Saturdays I go and a lot of times I'm like, man, I don't feel like going. And then I would go sometimes. And we go there. Um, there's a bunch of friendly people. They cheer when we show up. Um, we are the cleanup crew. And so my girlfriend does the inventory of everything that comes in and goes out. And I kind of hang out and there's generally some kids there and we play basketball and then I sweep up the floor and I help them like lift heavy things, or reach things that are up on the tall shelf. Um, and and it's yeah, and then we're done and then we're over in Brooklyn and we get a coffee and or we visit with some friends and then we come back home. It's a very sort of set thing. I don't know what is going on with the rest of Camp Friendship. I have this very set, I know what it's going to be. Some days are longer and some days are shorter. But it's very clear. Like it's a very clear thing. I show up, I do this one thing. There is some compensation. There's some donuts that are there.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes we get like they have food that's like gonna go bad, so a lot of times we'll come home with, like 3 giant cabbages or, like a bag of carrots that, no one could use or they're gonna go bad. So there is some like kind of perks. Um, Now in Gimbal Labs, so what that means is that I'm not involved with, because there are some people that there's an accountant that shows up and she wanders in, she goes up into the office and she does stuff, but I don't know anything about what's going on up
Right,
there.
right.
I trust that she knows what she's doing, and
If
I
you
trust,
had a question, you could venture to ask,
yeah,
but
exactly,
right, there's no
exactly.
reason to.
Right, because I'm being satisfied with, with showing up and getting, and there is an exchange. It's not completely but I'm friends with all the people there. Like that's where we found our trivia team, which went to the championship, the Champions Cup. So like they're our buddies. So it's just like, yeah, look here, and there's Alex and Harsha and Nelson and Sebastian. These are friends. So it is a space in that sense that it's not transactional. And I think that might be a pitfall of compensation in that way. That's why I think the compensation should be so low that it's not really worth like, rating it, less than 100 ADA, less than $50. Maybe it's 50 ADA, maybe it's 10 ADA, maybe it's just anything. Maybe it's just like you get a gold star on your thing. It can't, like, the fungibility-ness of it or like the exchangeability of it. All right, James, let's see your hands up.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in the compensation part for a different reason. But I think Sebastian's points are really important, and I think it's really good that we're talking about the driver, because like, yes, this initially connects our global driver to a project, but I think what we're doing now in this conversation is going into the finer details of how this driver is connected. And one thing that may or may not end up in like the final driver, but it came up in our conversation that we want more proposals, but maybe even more so like more variety of people
Okay. Yeah.
creating proposals. And you can decide, you're the source of this proposal, but like those are kind of interesting themes that implicitly emerged in this conversation. Right? And with those ideas, I do agree with Sebastian's point. If our goal is to measure number of proposals, variety of people, and the delta between our current state and where we're going, right? And to this question about measurement, I do think that we might have enough of a baseline now, like over the last few months. Here's how many proposals have come by doing it the way we're doing it. And here's the number of different people who have contributed, right? That's a baseline. And so we could just get those numbers and we could decide if we want more of like an alpha part of the testing period before we implement anything, but we might have enough for now. And once we have that baseline, we might be looking to change those numbers in a variety of different ways. One is maybe a process like this, having some reward scheme. But the other that might be even more effective is just better communicating what this proposal process is, right? Through documentation, education materials. So ultimately, I'd love to pursue both of those. I don't think there's a harm as long as, like Newman was just saying, in keeping the total reward amount low. And 100 ADA feels good. It passed my smell test when you first suggested it at current market rate, like to take initiative, right? That's the idea of source. It is valuable for people to take initiative. It's valuable to see different owners' names populating this column, and this is going to continue to grow and diversify. That seems to me to have a value in itself, and it would push us potentially towards these metrics of how many different people are joining us here. But then what Simon said really resonated with me. I was kind of joining Sebastian in that objection as I kind of played with those thoughts, especially because of this question, right? Well, if we start paying proposers, where is it? Right? If we compensate proposers, does that mean we have to compensate everyone? And at first I was thinking, yeah, probably. But Simon's point was really cool. The idea being, look, as the source, as the proposer, you're taking some initiative and you are making it possible for other people now to join you in whatever you're envisioning, right? Newman brought this proposal today, and here I'm sitting here riffing on it, right? Oh, sorry, my screen share is broken. Let me try it over here. I don't know why that's happening. Sorry, everybody. Can you still hear me? Or did
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, good. My screen sharing on Zoom crashed.
I can try to share it.
Sure, you want to take over?
Yeah, I'll share.
Thanks, Newman.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I think it's very, very interesting to compensate in a small way for being a source of a proposal, for taking initiative, because you are playing a critical role in creating space for other people to lean into those ideas and eventually to be contributors to projects, right? And no matter how we measure the funds we've got, 30,000 ADA is a minimum amount that we can put towards this work. There's a total of 100K ADA in the sustain and maintain proposal that might all pass through this process. Okay. So this is potentially a substantial amount, and your back of the napkin math makes sense to me. 30 proposals times 100 ADA each. If that's 3,000 ADA to drive work that really takes up the bulk of the funds, that might sound appropriate. Okay, but sorry, what I really wanted to bring to this is around the ideas of how we administer it. We have the opportunity to use the contribution platform.
Yes, yes, yes.
And this is interesting for a few reasons. One, just like in Notion, we made an initial governance decision that the way to get a Notion account is to make your first proposal. Maybe this could be the similar onboarding pathway towards having a contributor token in the contributor platform, right? Propose something, try the process. Even if it's a proposal that doesn't ultimately become a funded project, you've taken some initiative. You've shared something about yourself, about what you want to work on. That's pretty exciting. And if we considered this part of an onboarding process, we might even find the right language for somebody to say, you know, hey, I'm sharing this proposal just because I want to tell you what I'm interested in, but I actually don't even need it to be a project, right? Like there's different outcomes that could happen over there. But this would be a way of onboarding people into contribution to other things. And what's the first thing you do? Well, you say, hey, I've got a proposal ready to go. You get your contributor token minted, and now you commit to presenting at a specific open spaces session. That directly on chain, that scarcity of slots at open spaces session would also help with scheduling, right? We could just create 2 proposal slots in every session, one at first, right? We have to be able to get through one whole proposal in one of these sessions, but I think we could aspire to having 2 slots. Those are represented by on-chain projects that can be the first thing that somebody commits to, and then they do it. And now we have to decide, like, hey, that was a quality enough presentation to get those rewards. And also, by the way, get your contributor token back so that now you can contribute to your project and others. I think there's some interesting things to do there. And then this would also reach into the reviewer role, because I think we'd want a budget line for one person to be responsible for finally releasing commitments that people make towards bringing these proposals. And currently I have a reviewer token. I've been using it to approve commitments to the PPBL course, but somebody else could take on that role for this kind of thing. I know
Okay.
that was a lot, but I'm trying to tie a few threads together and describe
That's
why it's
great.
really exciting.
I do think, and like it might be worth a round at this point. Let's do a round. And let's see, how are y'all feeling about a round?
Great, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll start and then we'll go to Sebastian, then Alex, then Harsha, then Nelson. I really like the idea because it can and it should be sort of whole. And using the Andamio contribution platform would be fantastic. So it all fits together. Again, this sustains and maintains Gimbalabs and those things. Actually, now that I say that, like it could be like the idea of reviewing and qualifying the proposers. It could be like extended to like our partner organizations and reputation. And we can explore it. Anyway, I think that it does touch on a a lot of different things, and I'm really happy to get the conversation that is captured, you know, that we're again doing the thing that we want to do. Like it's more than just having a free-form conversation. It's, you know, it's working on a proposal. Sebastian, and then Alex, just a round of general impressions or ideas. And you can also, of course, pass if you have nothing.
Yeah, taking all the impressions and the opinions in a single package sounds really good. Safe enough to try. In our
Safe enough to
social
try. Yeah.
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 But I think we should, with the caveat that in parallel, we should start a process of documentation and promotion, a solid process of documentation and promotion of the process to standardize all the framework. But my opinion, it's really good to try.
Yeah.
And let's see how it works. Good job, Newman. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm going to put that down in, because it's like parallel, this is how I spell parallel, parallel initiatives that are focused on this driver, focused on this driver. You know, increasing proposals. Yeah. And quality proposals. Okay. Thank you, Sebastian, Alex, and then Harsha.
Thank you. A very interesting proposal. Ties into some of the discussions I've been having as well. In particular, there is this theme that I'm trying to raise awareness now, which is called "It Takes a Village," and it's a talk on YouTube by one of Silona, who is an open source consultant at Intersect. What I really liked what she says, and it ties nicely to what Nori shared before, you know, and the ideas about how the peculiar things that happen in open source. And in the context of this session, like It Takes a Village, it talks about the importance of recognizing contributions which are not software development, because when we write software, Git really helps us with tracking contributions for people who develop code, but there are no tools like that outside of programming world. And then it ends up like one person does a share of work, but then another gets the credit for it. And that's a kind of problem in open source and potentially in Cardano as well. And this proposal kind of highlights the importance of this work that, you know, like writing and promoting a proposal for a project that I don't necessarily own myself. And there's a nice point there to what James and Simon talked about, emotional ownership and like skin in the game. And it's like, I don't want if I'm the proposal, if my proposal is good, it is enough good for me that I come and present my proposal. But then there is the idea of people who are in Cardano and want to contribute to Cardano, helping people who are not from Cardano and doing this, like familiarizing them and getting scaffolding for interacting with Cardano folks, because we do have our own language and habits, you know. And then this proposal importantly, you know, highlights this type of work, that here is someone who has a proposal. They don't speak the language that we use in Cardano, and it sounds a little bit off, but I found this proposal intriguing, you know, and I would like to sort of invest my time into writing it up, you know, and translating it into Cardano speak, you know, and bringing it and talking about, so lobbying, in a sense, for this proposal.
I love it. Yep. I especially like, well, I'll continue the round. Okay, we're continuing the round. That's great. Thank you so much, Alex. Harsha and then Nelson.
I also feel like it is safe enough to try. I'm not sure if we decided exactly on the budget for the proposal and which direction to take exactly, but I feel like this would give us, at the least, it would give us insights. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Harsha. And Nelson.
Yeah, I also think this is a good proposal and something enough to try. Yeah, meanwhile, we were having this conversation, I was just wondering and thinking about things that could be done. Yeah, a couple of ideas floating around in my head, and yeah, I'm really excited.
Cool. Nice. Okay. We're coming up onto like 45 minutes into this sort of part. We still have 30 minutes in the session. I wonder what is next, because this is not, and I
Yeah.
didn't,
Can
it's not
I
go
propose
for it, Jason.
something?
Yeah.
Can we maybe, just like we were talking about at live coding yesterday, can we do a pair programming session to explore some Notion features
Oh
to
yeah,
help us with some next steps?
for sure.
So if you keep screen sharing, this gives
Yeah.
me a chance to demo a few things. So first of all, in the status right there, it's currently blue proposal in the
Yeah.
center of your screen. Click that. Let's move this to purple, community review and consent.
Nice. Okay.
It's not in progress yet. Like Harsha said, right? This is not, we haven't defined a budget yet, right? But this one's definitely in the process. And now one of the questions we're all working on together is like, okay, when is that consent process complete? We know what the playbook is from looking at S3, but that's one of our next steps, is taking Harsha's proposal from consent into in progress, and this one as well.
Okay. Right. And I can look at the other projects, and there should be one in the community. So we've got Harsha's proposal, which spaces, and that's in this one. Now we've just added this fund proposal presentations in this one. Okay.
Bingo. Right. And so now we have this dashboard view. Okay, these are the two proposals. Wow, when I look at that list, yes, I remember when Harsha presented which spaces, and I remember when Newman presented the fund proposal for the first time. That's really exciting.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Now, Sebastian raised another point about these connected proposals, right? There's other proposals that are going to support some of what we're writing in the driver. And that's incredibly exciting. And so now we have the opportunity to start to ask, well, yeah, like I'm fleshing out a driver for this project right here, but actually some of what I'm naming is going to apply to other potential projects. So what are the containers for those projects? One container that we already have is the circle, right?
Right.
So how do circles help us to organize around, well, who are going to be some of the key contributors here? And what are we responsible for? We might have come up with some bullet points today that actually are going to really fit into a sub-circle's primary driver, which is, that to me goes back to like why we should pay proposers. Why is it valuable for people to propose new projects? Because by talking about it, we make sense of like the higher level clarity of what we're trying to achieve here. And some of that clarity is going to bubble up to circles in a way that supports our further work. So I'm sharing this in the context of Notion because we have that circle column right there, right?
Okay,
And
where in Notion is the circle column?
Look in this table right here. It's the middle column.
Oh, yeah.
And when you click on that column, you can add and remove tags, or in any cell in that column for a given project or
Right.
proposal.
Admin, PBLs, local community, sustainability, and builder.
Right. And so question for everybody, if you look at Newman's proposal, I see that it's currently in local community. Does this belong in additional circles, or does it even suggest that new circles need to exist?
Well, the reason why I chose local community is because it's sort of the stakeholders would be local community. But to be honest, it could be admin, meaning that there is going to need to be a representative, or it's going to need resources from admin. And then let me just go through the other ones. The PBL doesn't really connect with any, in my mind, the PBLs. Local community, we've said. Sustainability, when I think of sustainability, I think of the like funding, like growth. I think maybe it's called sometimes growth and sustainability. Like generally, I think of sustainability, I think of like proposals to get, for writing grants and like catalyst proposals and other things. And builder, I think of like technical builders. If I needed, I mean, it may fit into admin because of that. Like this is going to require some admin stuff. What do you think?
I love it. I love the thoughtfulness. And yeah, what does everybody else think?
I just feel like sustainability has to be slightly more expansive in definition, because I think we can't rely on external funding forever. So I think sustainability should encompass like sustaining Gimbalabs beyond like external funding.
Yeah, okay, so expanding the sort of scope, because then if you think of like resources coming in, like when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, sustainability and like bringing in new members, not just funds, but bringing in new resources, which is, ideas and source, human source of those ideas. So possibly sustainability circle. Um, you know, just as a tension, or as like a like, ooh, I want to look in the Notion for the source documents of these circles. So like I want to look over here, and just allow me to do this really quick. Okay, there's the start here. I want to be like somewhere here. I want to link to each of the circles.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and I
We can
think,
we can
yeah,
demo
yeah.
some of that too. How would people feel about doing just a little bit of administrative stuff around here to facilitate our work for the last 15 minutes today?
I would be glad for that.
Any other thoughts before we do that on the circle that best, or the circles that best fit funding proposal presentations? And the reason I'm asking, right? Yeah, and you could see it here too. So even on the individual page, that's something we can edit. And I think this is a real thing we should practice, is saying, okay, once this project is moving, what circle is going to support it, right? And why? So this can be an ongoing conversation, and it might eventually lead to needing different circles, which is normal, right? This is going to drive us to evolve the right shape of the organization. So there's one more Notion thing I want you to see before we keep going. Stay on this. Oh, like help me.
Yeah. Just what circle
Let me let the
will
note
support?
taker finish.
Okay.
If you stay on this page and just scroll up, you can already kind of see it. There's two fields here that say blocked by and is blocking. And just for the sake of showing how this works, try clicking there and choose the which spaces proposal, because that one stopped you from presenting this last week. You were blocked by it, right? And this proposal is blocking the enabling contribution reviewers. Because I've been waiting to present that one for 2 weeks now.
That's so true.
But in a more substantial way, this proposal right here actually is going to feed directly into reviewers because, like I shared a few minutes ago,
Yeah.
once we start onboarding contributors, the need for reviewers becomes more important. So this is wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are really, I'm using these in a silly way in the open spaces context, but these two fields are amazing for lining up the dominoes, being able to say, hey, we're doing this project right now so that we can get into the next project, so that we can get to this bigger project, which maybe that's the thing I'm really here to work on, right?
Yeah.
And when we start to do this, this data becomes pretty interesting to look at. So if you go back to the projects tab where we can look at everything, and maybe if you want to just zoom out for just a minute, I know that we're zoomed in for the screen share,
Okay. Yeah.
but you'll see that these columns are over there, okay? And everything gets populated. So if you scroll down, you'll see enabling contribution reviewers. Yep, that one's blocked by this. And then underneath, yep, blocked by and is blocking are related fields in any proposal.
Nice.
Any questions
Okay.
about that? And then ultimately, if you scroll to the top of this page, there's a timeline button or a timeline tab. We can't just press escape because you've got some filter on. And now you
Yeah.
should be able to see timeline.
Ooh, how did I? Oh, okay. Okay. Escape. That was a great. Okay. So here's timeline.
Yeah. And so now you
Oh,
can see, right? Like if you put
yes.
dates and relationships on projects, a roadmap starts to emerge.
Look at this. I'm getting a notice here. Get Notion calendar. View any Notion database with your calendar and timelines and view with your Google Calendar events. Oh, okay.
And so
Something.
I've been using Notion Calendar, and it's pretty amazing to see ongoing projects at the top of my weekly view. I can see my meetings in the daily view imported from Google, and then I can see the projects that I'm committed to completing tasks on right there in that view. It's pretty nice. But at least for us, this is pretty exciting, right? And you
Yeah.
can imagine how once every project has dates and dependencies on it, now you can get a real picture for what we need to be working on right now and where we might reallocate our attention.
Uh, yep. This immediately makes me think of, and I get the Project Catalyst proposals. It's one of those things where I want to really deliver on those proposals and kind of understand where they're going. And I would love to sort of see that. For instance, right now we're doing the statement of milestones, and doing the onboarding, and it would just be cool to sort of have us dashboard for those projects as well. You know, not that I want to be not that I want to be super involved, but like kind of like that example of the food pantry. Like I know that someone's going in there and doing, and that things are taken care of, and that it's not that I'm not on shaky ground. And I mean, this food pantry has been going. Actually, the food pantry itself has only been going since the pandemic. Um, but the organization itself has been around for like 20 years, or more. Uh, so yeah,
Well, let's watch this. So keep that screen there and let's do a live. I'm going to add sustain and maintain to the list. And we know this is approximately a 4-month proposal, August, September, October, November. I mean, we can always change the date later.
yeah.
Just hold on one second.
Oh, it was really cool to see you in the document. There's like just like in Google Docs, there's a little chit. I guess that's what this is. Yeah.
So this one now has a start date and an end date. And so that's why it takes
Oh.
up horizontal space. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is July.
Yeah.
Skips August, September, October. That's weird. But yeah, so these are by month.
Mhm.
Alex's
And then we could
proposal.
say that, we could actually say that maybe this fund proposal presentations is a prerequisite of delivering the F12 proposal, which is kind of true. We're having this conversation
Yeah.
before that funding starts to come in. So let's add a relationship there.
Yeah. Is help me walk through that one, okay?
Oh, hold on, I did it wrong. Yeah, so here's to add it, you could click on either of those proposals, fund proposal presentations or the Fund 12 proposal itself.
So we'll go, well, let's just keep it in on the side here. And then up here,
A plus sign shows up at the far right of the is blocking row.
is blocking. Oh, so this one would be, we would go to Fund 12, sustain and maintain. Are these alphabetical?
I don't know
Oh,
how
there it
they're
is.
ordered.
F12
But yeah,
proposal.
often
Yeah.
that typing search is really helpful too. You can just type
Oh,
in.
right. Okay. So there it is, sustain and maintain. So
Oh.
it blocks proposals, sustain and maintain, because it has to be finished before that one could be finished out, or yeah, something. It's in relationship to it, yeah.
Right. And then you can actually, even if you drag the end of one of those horizontal bars in the timeline view, it'll update the dates on the document. So you can visually rearrange your projects as you're sketching things out. I think
Oh, like this?
the ends of those,
Look at
yeah.
that.
Yep.
That's rad.
How much time is this one gonna take? Let's
So
just
yeah, and that gets us down to, it's like, when do we want to like have decision, etc. on this? Maybe we get like a month. So like a month of, so by August 31st, like
goal would be for this to be an opened project, at which
yeah,
point we would change the dates. Right now, we're using the dates to represent getting to consent.
yeah,
And then once it's an approved project, we'll add the timeline for that.
right. Because it's still in the community review and consent.
Right.
So as a community review and consent project, and I think a month. I think by the end of the month, we form it into something, or maybe, I mean, what is the timeline, do you think? Like how long to like go through this recording, listen to the feedback, get it into a proposal that we can do the consent process? Because that seems like that's what the
Right. We're kind of
timeline.
making up the rules as we go along.
Right.
But I would love to tend towards whenever the proposal author has the next revision, it's time to talk about it again. And maybe we can get to the point where actually these purple proposals that are in the community review and consent stage, maybe that's our first agenda item every Thursday, is asking those authors, hey, are you ready to move through a consent process here, or do you need some more advice on anything? Start with that and then go into the new proposal part.
Okay, so yeah, revise proposal, get advice, and do consent process are tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And we can have like we can have a proposal template, but then also a proposal task template. So we know
It's one and the same, right? So you
Yeah.
go from the process of fleshing out the proposal. Once it's consented to, everything above that task board should not be edited too much. That's the
Right.
agreement of what we're going to do.
Yeah,
How are we going to do it? Oh, with these tasks right here.
Yeah.
And each of those, as you can see, can have an assignee. It can have a due date. And I think the tasks even, do they have dependencies too? Maybe not. Oh, yeah. No, not really. But they could, right? There's metadata that we could add to these, but at least I find using the due dates and assignment here. All right, this person is going to have this thing done by this date. If I'm depending on that, I can count on them or make sure they're good.
Nice. This is just like what we were, and Simon, actually, I had a great chat with Simon. He's like, wow, it was really cool. Like, I'm gonna come to these because he saw us do coding, and he's working with and we're just talking about Simon now, but he's doing some stuff with Linux OS and Nix OS. And he also was like, doing, got the Chat GPT open and trying to get commands and like, hey, how do I do this? And I think he was really impressed with our pair programming. And we're doing the same thing with Notion. So kudos to us.
And we want to do the same thing like we talked about yesterday with proposals themselves eventually, right?
Yeah.
This is part of the service. Why would people want this service? Well, ultimately, we don't want them to want this so they can get that ADA reward. But does that little reward help people take the first step and then realize that they want to learn more?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that I think is a good, to me, it feels like activation energy, like it is, and then an activation energy to what? So an activation energy to learn Linux, and Alex brought this up about there is a method for open source contribution, and eventually which is one of the great reasons why I love that Alex is around, because I think that he's really connected to the open source thing. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's like a super champion in like open source projects.
Yeah.
And so, but we're learning like Linux stuff. This is the background knowledge, and that there is a value to it. And we just need to like get just a teeny little incentive to over that hump. That's my ideal. That's the way I think it would work. But there certainly are pitfalls to that. And I think one of the mitigations to that pitfall is that keeping the reward low enough that it doesn't attract sort of bad actors or people to like raid things.
It can be
But
a scarce resource. Yeah, I think, and actually, can we maybe end the live stream and can we align on a couple things off air?
for certain.
All right, y'all. For anybody watching this, thanks for hanging out. We meet on Thursdays, 14:30 UTC. You can find the registration link, gimbalabs.com/calendar. There's a lot of public resources here. If you ever need access to any of the links, just drop by on Gimbalabs Discord. And as you saw today, if you have something you'd like to do that mobilizes communities and creates spaces where people can get together for this kind of conversation, be sure to stop by. We're building a new proposal process right now. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
Bye.